Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about being engaged at work. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, "Hi Frederick, great advice as always." Well, thank you. He was posting on how do I approach a company to get a programming job, and apparently he liked my video. I'm very pleased to hear that. How much are you expected to contribute as a new hire in a company? Should you try very hard to interject and ask questions to seem engaged? Or are you better off letting the seniors run the show and wait till they half jokingly say, "Tell me what to do," or give you an assignment? Well, they're not gonna tell me what to do. I can promise you that. If they're even if they're even slightly old and bitter, they're just gonna assume that they know everything most of the time. And no self-respecting bitter senior would ever ask a junior, "Can you tell me what to do?" Because that would indicate that you have something to say that is worth hearing after 20 years or 10 years or whatever years of experience. And that's just not how the world works, my friend. It's just not. But if you want a strategy for how to deal with people in your new company and so forth, I can give you some advice. So, first and foremost, what you should understand is that, and this I would even go as far as to say that this should go for the seniors and the mid-level. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. I don't care what developer you are. The first thing you should do is to understand that you are no longer in your last company. You're no longer playing by the same rules as you used to. So your first priority is to understand your environment. Hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you. It's the same thing as going into a new relationship. You can absolutely take the learnings with you, but you're now in a new environment and the rules may have changed. You may have been with a company or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or something like that where they did certain things a certain way and so forth, and you've got it into the groove of doing things in a certain way. But now you need to actually relearn the whole thing. This is not a problem for you if you're a junior developer or this is like your first job or the second job or something like that, where you don't really have all that much to go on. But for the old timers, this is going to be a problem because you can't just always be the same person. You need to adapt a little bit. And adapting is the first principle. So when you start in that new company, realize that all the choices that have been made for a reason within that company. They may not be very good reasons, but the first priority is for you to figure out what those reasons are. So if you are, and I mean, this happens so rarely that people actually have this mindset that they want to understand their situation before they start doing something else, which is the thing that is the norm. Because this has never failed for me. Not a single time. When like usually you have two types of hires. You have the people who are either very like calm and kind of laid back, or they're very junior and very unsure of themselves, and they will kind of just do what you were saying here. Like they wait for you to tell them to do things, or like give them assignment. You have to direct them. But the people who are engaged, who actually like are really passionate and so forth, this never fails. And this is the first rookie mistake every single engaged program I've ever worked with makes. And that is to say one of the following sentences. So pull out your pen and paper, boys and girls, because if you say anything remotely like this, all the seniors are going to roll their eyes at the same time. First sentence: why are you using A? B is so much better. Don't you know about how awesome B is? That's number one. I hear this. Like it never fails. Like someone you come into a company where you have literally, I mean, some have actually said this on their first day. They haven't even downloaded the repository yet, and we've just kind of went through orientation. And the first thing they ask is, "Why are you using REST? Don't you know about gRPC?" I kind of go, "Yes, we do. Uh, do you want to talk about why we don't use gRPC, or should we just teach you how to use Git to start off with?" Second thing they usually say, or someone says, is going to be, have you ever tried using A because its fixes inject irrelevant problem? This is also a really good one. Like, why aren't you using mob coding to solve your problems? Why don't you, haven't you tried property-based testing? Don't you know that if you change from using this library to that library, it's going to change or fix this arbitrary little pointless thing that just really, really doesn't make the big difference? And you kind of sit there and go, yeah, sure, like just add it in. Let's add it to the pile of other things that someone who because there's 5 people before you who came in and did the same sort of thing, and by the first year of you being in this company, you're going to start to realize why people tend to go from very enthusiastic and very driving to being apathetic and kind of just, this is a hassle to deal with. Because the more, like, I like to think about it, dependencies and processes and all that stuff, it's like strings. When you start a fresh project, there's just one string, and for everything you add, there's another string, and then another one, and then another one, and before you know it, you have the problem grows exponentially, because the more people you have adding strings, the harder it becomes to do anything. And for real, you realize very quickly that even the simplest thing can become really complicated now, because you have all of these different strings that are so important because they're fixing all of these irrelevant problems, all of them, that you can't throw them away. Because once it's in, and it stays in. And the third one is also, of course, you know what? We should really do this expensive migration, or like change the way we do all of these sorts of things, because there is this very subjective thing that is going to be improved. This little thing that might, do all the things and make everything better. And then they either this is endless. And so what I argue to you is that if you want to be a very good new hire in a company, what you want is to find the balance between being engaged and being annoying. And having someone who comes in on their first day and says all of these things and basically immediately just assumes that they know how everything can be improved on day one, and like they don't even take the time to actually figure out their environment or like try to understand things. They're just basically spewing out improvements, trying to prove to the entire world that they're so smart, they're so good at this thing, and they're trying to basically justify their own intelligence to everybody else. And that's the thing that you developers really do. Like, we really do love proving to each other that we're really, really smart. I've been in meetings where like everybody had the same idea at the same time, and they basically just said the same thing, and then we kind of just started talking, and I just go, okay, guys, everybody's a genius. We all had the same idea. Can we just agree that we're sexy, smart people and move on? Because we're saying the same thing, so now we don't have to listen to each of us explaining the same thing that the other people have already said. Let's just move on, right? So here's my tip for you. This is a pro tip right here, right now. If you can do this, it's going to literally shock the socks of every single senior and mid-level developer that has picked up on this trend in your new company. Whenever you have a new idea, because having ideas is a good thing, it all comes down to presentation. Say these words. So, could you tell me a little bit about why we're doing A? I just want to understand why we decided to do A and the benefits of doing that, as opposed to doing something like B. And I also, because I think B could be a really nice thing, but I also want to understand if A really is the better option, to see what the trade-offs are. Use that. Create your own flavor of that. Because what you've just explained, what you have just done, is that you, my friend, has realized you have gone into an environment where you haven't even worked yet, with people who have been there for quite some time, and just assumed that they probably had a few reasons as to why they did the thing that they did. And you are trying to understand those reasons before you tell everybody that there's a better way of doing things. And you're now starting a dialogue between the people and yourself about why we're doing it this way. And you are going in with the idea that I'm going to understand that thing, And maybe they actually are right. Maybe because of the situation, maybe because of the stakeholders, maybe because of the business model, this is actually the easiest thing for us to use, or it is the best thing given the circumstances. Before you're saying that everybody is not with the times, or like, oh, we should use this thing, don't you know about that thing? Because it's likely, guys, that the people that you're talking to might actually know about all of these things, or they might not care. Like, there's so many things that could be going on. So by just going in this very humble and disarming way and going, can you explain why this thing is working the way it is working, and what the benefits of that is, so I can compare it to my thoughts on using this other thing? Because they seem to be doing the same sort of thing, and I just want to figure out if my thing would be is actually an improvement, or if this thing that is already working actually does the job well enough. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you want to be a good new hire in a company, make sure that you start a dialogue with you and your coworkers. It is a very good idea to be engaged, because people really respond to engaged people, but you have to tread the line. There's a difference between being engaged and passionate and being fucking annoying. Annoying is having an individual, and this is the norm. I promise you, you will think these things before you quit. Before you retire as a software developer, you will experience what I have told you right now. You have some new person comes in, and the only thing they're really interested in is either to change everything about everything because they've had the chance to look at all of these tech talks, or they are just out to prove how smart they are. It's just about like spewing out trend words, or spewing out like obvious things that anybody who has spent 5 minutes on a weekly newsletter will know about. And they're just blindly, like, it's like a spray. It's just a spray of ideas and hypes. That's all it is. And they have no context, they have no understanding of the system and so forth. They are starting out that way. That is very annoying to a lot of senior developers. If you, on the other hand, go and say, I'm going to take a look at why things are working the way they are and get an informed decision going, and then when I see that, okay, I now understand how this works, and I actually believe that this is an informed and well thought out suggestion that I can make that might improve the situation, but let's have a conversation with the people who are working with me. All of a sudden, you have shown maturity and seniority in your decision making process, instead of trying to make everybody believe that you're very smart. Have a great day.